Well, round 13 is here, and we've got a few little interesting things to speak about, especially in this first game. So let's get right into it there. We've obviously only got 5 games to go through a team with 7 of those on the bye, and then all of the Origin guys are out. So you will see potentially some names that you don't know, or some rookies, and it's going to be a fun little round to. It always is these major bye rounds, 13, 16, 19, to see some of the young talent come through in our game. But let's kick it off with the craziness of this team list, and that's the Eels there with King Gutho returning there at the back, which that means Blaze Talangi has been relegated. Strangely enough, he's been relegated to the bench, so you would have thought that given he's been pretty well their best player over the last few weeks, that they would have found a way to pop him in this team and get him on the field more than what this might be. And I'd expect it to be similar to what he was playing off the bench a month ago before he got that starting gig, which was about that. Well, he only came on sort of for injury, so it's going to be interesting to see how this one's going to play out. They've got Brendan Hands in here as well, and Joey Lussick. How good has he been all season? Has been relegated to the reserve. So, and Madison still sticks there as well in the 21 jersey. So Maddo must be out of favour, to be fair. And might show what's happened with him for the majority of this season so far. He started the preseason late. He was only getting lower minutes and then wasn't performing terrifically well on the field. Obviously, the whole team hasn't, but he's definitely out of favour at the moment. And same with Joey Lussick there. For Talangi owners, it's more of just a one where you've just got to cop it. I think if you have 3 centres in your team and you're looping one of them, even if let's say you can't loop, because I know there's obviously this game, you've got Iro and also Blaze Talangi in that same game. If you cannot loop in that scenario, just play Iro. Definitely. I think you would be playing him anyway in your 13 this week, but I would definitely be playing him over Blaze Talangi. If you have no ability to loop in the centres, then you will just have to cop that one, and hopefully they do try to get him on for sort of 40, 50 minutes, at least 30, something like that would be good. And at least with a low break even, he won't be losing your money. And if this is the case from next week, you're likely going to have to trade him out, which is a little bit frustrating. We're hoping to sort of get him at least for this round, with Gutho returning next week, but it isn't to be, and Blaze ends up in that spot on the bench. What we do see, though, is a pretty solid team now that Mitch Moses is back. You've got Blaze Talangi, Sean Lane on your bench. Wiramu Greg returns as well, and we know what he can do through the middle there. And then Makatoa is their 17th man. In this one, Kamatulangi ends up getting the start, so he's likely to score fairly well over the next few weeks as well. And if he's taken a spot over Sean Lane, who's likely to play in the middle from now on, it seems that's probably going to be the way it goes, given he did that last week, that Bryce and Kelma both have a little bit of value there. But what we do note, and I really implore you to watch the video I posted earlier today. I think it's going to be super important for you, obviously for this week, but more for your selections coming into round 14 next week, and 15 and 16 from there. What I did go through in that one was that there were so many really, really good edges to pick in round 14. So I personally wouldn't be going for any of these guys here in round 13, just with the plethora of options you've got across that edge position as a whole. Mitch Moses, a few people have asked me about him, and is he going to be worth it picking him up for his return game? Look, I think it's a very, very big risk with an injury like his, as you're out for so long, to come back and grab him first game. If you want to, I completely understand. If you're trading Hines, he's definitely the next best option now. Him and Dylan Brown, I still think Dylan Brown's got a tremendous amount of value there for sure as a really strong scorer, not in terms of his price, but I think you'll get somewhere around that 50 to 55 average going forward for Dill, and he'll be fine to pick up. For Moses, there is risk attached, but there is the ability of him to go 70 plus and do great things. He takes the goal kicking back as well from Sean Russell, and you could definitely go for it, but I would see it as being a risk as well. I wouldn't be going near Brendan Hands, likely to score well this week, but outside of that, not someone you want to grab. Will Penasini, we know he plays better with Mitch Moses, but I do think there's enough good centres at the moment that you probably don't need to go for him, and you'd rather spend the money on someone like Karaz, in my opinion, there. So I think we'll leave the Eels side there. We'll move to the Sharkies, and we do see Braden Trindle returns, and it looks like he's good to go from now on. So that's something I do wonder for Daniel Atkinson for next week there. Is he going to keep that spot in the side? I think he's played well enough to keep it. But at this stage, it's going to be Trindle and Atkinson for this week. If Hines obviously doesn't back up, this will stay the same. But if he does back up, then we'll have to find out what's going to happen with Atkinson. So definitely just holding on steady, not buying him. And let's just hope that he does play next week, especially for teams like myself that need all hands on deck. And I know most of you guys will be the same. Kale Iro, a very clear play this week. I think he'll be able to do really well. And a bit of a low one from him last week. I think he's due for a try assist or a try there. Him and Ronaldo have been starved for attacking stats over the last sort of month, especially. Kale lucky to be getting some line breaks. Obviously, his base stats are really, really strong. In the forwards there, you see Hazelton and Kafusi. Nothing changes there with Brayley. Nikora keeps his spot. Wilton and obviously Jack Williams moves into the 13. But likely to be just a one-week thing, and he's very expensive at that. From the interchange, you see Toby Rudolph return there, which isn't anything of note for any of your sides anyway. On the next game there, we've got the Knights up against the Dogs. And we do see David Armstrong at the back, which we expect. And I think he's a terrific purchase for you this week if you don't own him currently. So make sure that's in your plans. Greg Marzou's obviously very cheap and is someone that you can target, but I just don't see him scoring incredibly well. He hasn't done enough this year. He hasn't looked likely. He's had one good game, but that was off the back of Armstrong just doing amazing things rather than Greg being, dominant himself and just getting early ball and going through it. It was just off an offload in a scrum play there from Armstrong. Dane Gagai, if you still need a centre, he's definitely the one to grab. I think he's the second best scorer this week. After that of sort of Joey Manu, if we're putting Aiken in the edge slot, because he's the best edge for this week, but also the best centre along with Manu. So Gagai's up there as well. As long as he can cover round 16, which I think is a pretty hard one for outside backs, that's for sure. Especially centres with Iro and other guys out there as well. Who else we got? No, that's all right. That's enough. Hastings is there. Mapapalangi, and nothing to talk about with him. Jaden Brayley, if you do need a hooker this week, if you have Lussick with him being out, I think you can trade Lussick straight to Brayley, and that'll be a pretty solid one. If you don't need another hooker, then just leave him for now. Dylan Lucas and Kaipi's Pool are starting with Tyson Frizzell off the bench, so it's a very interesting one. Could change last minute. Unlikely at this point. I'd say Dylan Lucas is a very solid edge pick if you want to get him. Kaipi's Pool just holding on strong at that point. And then if you do still own Elliott, I think you hold on as well in that scenario. But they do have sort of a 4-forward type of bench at the moment with Frizzell potential to go a little bit on an edge, but more than likely he will spend a fair bit of time through the middle in this matchup. For the Doggies, we do see some changes there with Blake Wilson coming onto the wing. Jacob Carraz takes Crichton's spot, so it's going to be Carraz and Wilson on that right-hand side again, but will we see Toby Sexton on that right-hand side with Drew on the left? I'm not sure on that front. I think Toby seemed to be moving side to side anyway, and hopefully that continues to help the game of Carraz after having a cracker last week. And if that's the case, then good stuff from there. I still think the Carraz is a buy, even if this is sort of this is likely 1 week rental in the centres, and that should be fine from there. But Hutcho returns with Sexton in this one. In the forwards there, Max King and Hughes are still the props. With Kikau going out, we do see Preston and Salmon starting there. And Preston, a really interesting one if you want an edge. Should be able to do really well for you. And then the interchange, we see Farmer Silly come back onto that bench there with Turpin coming off that one back into the reserves. And it's with Curtis Moore and Josh Curran and Bailey Hayward. So they're still persisting on using Curran through the middle there. We may see a change on game day, but I don't expect it at this stage. So Josh Curran, an interesting one. I still can't pick him as a buy off the bench, and I think you'd be picking Preston ahead of him for sure. And then Reed, obviously the best 9 at the moment with Burton. Burton's out as well for the Doggies. All right, on to the next to last there with Panthers up against the Dragons, and look who's made it, Jack Cole. He's been named, which is good stuff, along with Brad Schneider, who comes back probably a week or two earlier than we thought. So very, very lucky, I think, Jack Cole owners are that Jerome Luai ended up getting picked for Origin, because Cole would not have been in this side and Luai would have been partnered with Schneider there. So very, very interesting at that one. We do see Dane Laurie returning to the starting side, first time for this year, I believe, for him, in the fullback jersey with Dylan Edwards gone. So congrats to that. It's going to be a fun watch. You lose Edwards and you've got Dane Laurie coming back there, who's an absolute live wire and can do anything on this park, that's for sure. Jesse McLean is in for Brian To'o, which will be fun as well to watch. He's a good young talent there. Isaac Tonga, if you want to go for a centre that's a little bit cheaper, he could be your play. And then the forwards, if you manage to hold on to Liam Henry in most likely Supercoach, unlikely to be kept in fantasy, but he's playing back row, which I think he's going to score really, really well in. Expect sort of 55 to 60 minutes out of him with Maverick Guy coming on and playing a few there as well. They've got Lindsay Smith in the 13 role, Scott Sorensen, a solid one without being spectacular at this stage of the season, and Liam Martin looking like he'll be fine for Origin. Does he back up? But, we don't actually see Luke Garner either. He is not on the bench, not on the reserve, so we'll have to find out what happens with Lukey very soon when he comes back. But yeah, that's probably it on the Panthers side. We've got Trent Tala'u, who there is on the bench, and Preston Ricky as well. So that'll be a little fun watch for those guys. For the Dragons on their side, they've got the Fainai brothers have returned there, which is cool, in the centres and also the wing for Max and Matthew. Sione Finau as well on the other wing there for the Dragons, with Sloan and Sully the mainstays there, with Flanagan and Jesse Marshke in the halves there. So that'll be a fun watch for sure, and I definitely expect the Panthers to come out and win this one. Obviously missing Ben Hunt, missing Lomax, are really, really big outs for this side. Francis Molo is partnered in the front row with Jack DeBellin, so still expect Jack to play big minutes in this one. They've got the Couchman brothers coming onto this interchange with Ben Murdoch-Masila. So yeah, anything around that 60-minute mark I think will be pretty fair for Jack in this one. Jacob Little, looking likely he'll play the 80 minutes with Jesse Marshke in the 7 role, and no one to really cover. Unless he was to get injured, they'll make shift to 9, but looks like Little's a pretty interesting pick this week if you do need a hooker as well, as a bit of a point of difference. Luciano Leilua and Raymond Faitala Mariner are back in the edge on the edges for the Dragons there. No real relevance for those guys, and it's really just DeBellin if you want to jump on him. A little bit more expensive than that of King, but it would also be a point of difference to a lot of the top coaches who did jump on Maxi King. With Jack Bird out, we've got Jaden Sewer obviously in Origin duty, and Harm Sele with his shoulder issue, unfortunately there. No real clear news on how bad Sele's shoulder is, but obviously if you're buying him for this sort of round 13, 14, and it's not panned out at all. All right. Yeah, good. Saturday night game, 9:35 p.m. it's going to be for me here in Fiji, so that'll be fun. Trey Fuller there at the back, so very happy about that one, obviously, as an owner myself. Don't be buying him, guys. Just hold on. Maybe he's a sell next week. We don't know. But Asako's in there on the wing. He'll be a fun watch as well. And, really cheeky captaincy option in these games. You've got Max Plath and Aiken, both really, really good options in my opinion. Aiken the best out of the lot. Asako, if you think he can go nuts. It is against the Raiders, though, and they've been putting up a good fight there in recent time. And they're only really missing, Hudson Young from their side there out to Origin. So with Felice Kafusi and Hammer being out for the Dolphins there. But Herbie got the 99 last week. Could you potentially put the captaincy on him? That'll be a fun little pick if you wanted to go for that down that route. And then, I said Aiken, I think, is probably close to the best captaincy option. If you don't currently own a Teddy or a Manu, these types of players there, then he comes into calculations there. Connolly Lemuelu is a very mid-range kind of guy that can make some money there. I expect a 40 to 50 type of score from him pretty regularly, especially in 80 minutes there out in the park. So that'll be a good one as well. And then Milford returns on the bench. Nothing too much changes for them. The Dolphins. And on the Raiders side, we see, as I said, that one change with Hudson Young out. We see Adam Mariota go into the edge there to cover. Smithies, Whitehead are all there. Same with Levi Papali'i Tapane. Nothing changes there. Same with their back 7. So a bit of continuity is always good. Simi Sasangi ends up back on the interchange bench after spending his time in the reserves recently. In terms of potential purchases from this side, I'd say nobody at this stage, to be honest. Like, people are looking at Whitehead last week. It'd be Tarpany, but he's sort of been off the boil a little bit and losing some cash. Has a bye next week. I'm not too excited about the Raiders. And to finish things off, we've got the Roosters and the Cowboys there. And the Roosters are very, very strong, even without a few of their players. So they do have Crichton out. Ian Butcher, unfortunately, has done his ACL. What we do with Crichton, we'll speak about that tomorrow. Sewell is out in Origin, Collins, and also Spencer Lenu. So a few changes here for this side. Nafahu White, as we said, likely to keep this 13 role at least for this week. And then round 15, probably majority of the guys will be back, so he won't have to. But we'll see how that one plays out. Good chance we get Connor Watson back that week as well. But Teddy, a really good purchase this week, along with Joey Manu. They've got Pauga coming back into the side. Dom Young hopefully can score some good tries as well for anyone who grabbed him in either format. Kiri partners Walker, so nothing changes there. Brandon Smith along with Hargraves. Terrell May gets the start for anyone who still hold on to him, which is good. Was expected as well, to be fair, especially with White at the 13 role. Sanders Smith will cover Brandon again. Siwa Wong, Satili Tupanua. I expect Tupanua to play a fair bit through the middle, and probably Wong will have to as well. Likely that Radley and Butcher play the full 80, and all these couple of guys here will split through the middle, and you got Jennings as backs cover there, which is cool. So yeah, that's the Roosters. And then the Cows, as I said in that previous video, not too many guys to have a look at purchasing. You've got Lukey there potentially if you want to go for it. Finafuaki will play close to the 80 this week, in my opinion. They've got McIntyre, Edwards, Taumalolo, likely through middles, and then Shibasaka as a bit more of their utility role, in my opinion, how it will play out. And for the Cows, Drinkwater, I expect a little bit more, little bit in general play. Kicking, it probably won't change too much with Clifford and Townsend. Like, Clifford's got a good boot on him there, but expect Scotty to take the goal kicking tee, I imagine. Clifford has kicked a few, I believe, as well, but I'm not too certain on that one, but maybe Scotty will pick that one up. Yeah, not confident there, but hopefully it's an owner that he will be kicking, that's for sure. But Granville goes into 9. We see McKaylee going to the 13 role. That could switch with like an Edwards or McIntyre for sure pre-game, and it might too. But if you do own McKaylee, it's obviously a benefit to having so many Origin guys out from the Cowboys there. So wild that Cows there have Val, Murray, Jeremiah, Reese, Dearden, and Ruben Cotter, all really important cogs in the Maroons outfit, and the Cowboys can't even win games in club footy. They've got 6 Origin players, so that's just ridiculous. Anyway, we'll leave it on that note, guys. That's the team list for this week for round 13, a very important one at that. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Eels team list and how much that affects you. And yeah, wish you all the best of luck with making your trades this week, and we'll see you tomorrow for really just deciding if we're going to hold a bunch of these players, and if we don't hold them, who are we trading to, or when are we trading them? Is it this week? Is it next week? And we'll work it all out tomorrow. Thanks, guys, for being here. Have a little play around with your teams and let me know what you're thinking in the comments below.